That's us, Micah Matthew Suwan, born on January 25th, 2001. Now, I understand that you must have a lot of questions, and we're going to clear them up first, but you probably want to know about family, mom and dad. So, well, let's see here. Maya is actually a veterinarian, her dream job, back in Pearl City, and Raina's a nurse at the hospital that I work at. And mom and dad are in Oregon where they always wanted to be, and it turns out that me and you actually turned out to be quite swell after school. We became pediatricians, we attended Creighton, and now we work in Hawaii, and somehow we're still here. It's very different now. The population has almost doubled and traffic is getting worse. But it's the cost of paradise. Judging on how I sent this message, you should be around 16, maybe 15. Coming up on Christmas, I know that. Oh, what a great year. Well, to tell you about the future, I mean, the whole idea of robots and equality among genders and races, those are still ideas. Sadly, those are still ideas. Remember that elementary school gig that we used to do where we used to create robots and we were told that we'd create them for future uses? Well, those uses never really got used. Apple is doing decent now, and the whole evolution of technology is kind of slowing down. Amongst the people, there's a lot of unrest. Racism is still lingering. We've got ourselves into a lot of wars, kind of like the wars that we imagined as kids, but now I wish we didn't imagine them. But everyone is doing good, everyone is happy, just living their own lives. Everyone is spread out amongst the world, living with their own families. And I came here to tell you today that we have to raise our kids better so that they can be the lights in this very dark generation ahead. Hi, Micah. It's me, you. Today, I sent you this message to not just warn you about you, but to warn you about the future of this country. The future is sinking, and I want us to raise our kids better than I raised our kids, Micah. And you must have a lot of questions, and I understand. Like, why do I still look the same? Well, Ben, Hugh, and I created these skin regeneration cells, and we're making a lot of money off of them, and so we never aged. So, the first strength that you and I shared was in Ms. Zawalski's class, and that strength was voicing and communicating our opinion in a way that people understood. The way it made itself known was through the spoken word poem. Do you remember that assignment where we talked about a social injustice, and our social injustice was how schools are outdated? You and I both know that we invested a lot of time into that poem, working in and outside of class just so that we could finish it, because we knew that our thoughts and ideas won't fit within that 1 hour 40 timeline. And voicing your opinion and communicating it in a way that other people understand is so very important. And we did it well. We used figurative language and such as similes and metaphors to get our message across to people. And communicating is so very important when you're a pediatrician, because you got to communicate to the kids. You need to make them understand what they need to do to better their health. And you need to talk to their parents, Being able to address someone in the respective and the most appropriate manner is so very important. And that's something that me and you did very well. Now, one thing that we could definitely grow upon in Ms. Zawalski's class was never being satisfied. Not being satisfied is key, especially during this time and age. There was this paideia. You remember those those discussions that we had, the criteria stated that we should have talked at least 3 times. But we talked once. But we felt like that one time was very deep and had a lot of support, textual evidence. So we stepped back and we settled. That Paideia, I think we had one of the worst grades because we had a lack of participation, and that's because we were satisfied. And I just want to let you know now that I struggled with this, especially coming out of college into the internship for a pediatrician job at Kapiolani. Never being satisfied is what sets you apart from everyone else. And that is so very key. Never being satisfied also means accepting constructive criticism that you and I both suck at. So, moving forward, learn to never be satisfied. Now, in STEM, with Dr. Hines, I think one of our best areas that you and I still have today is persistence. You and I never give up really easily, and I felt like it showed itself when we were working on the slow it down lab. I think the whole purpose of the lab was to demonstrate how force affects mass and acceleration and stuff like that. Where we had to design our lab and teach Dr. Hines and convince him that we actually did absorb the information, and we just had to show that we had to apply it. And we had to have a one-on-one interview with him, and he had a checklist on what he wanted to talk about with him. And he expected us to use the right terms and such, and we went up totally unprepared. Within the first 30 seconds we sat down, and instead of crying and turning away and afraid to do wrong again, we fixed our problem and we went right back up there, only to be sent back. But that was okay with us because we knew that taking a loss and being wrong is a part of the growth process, and that is so very important. Persistence is so very key, and we persisted and we didn't let one setback judge us. And that's so very key in the workplace because people have told us that we'll never make it. We weren't the most smartest, we weren't the most on time, we weren't the most disciplined, but we still made it, Micah. And persistence is one of our strong suits, and I urge you to please teach our kids the same persistence that Dad taught us. Now, along with persistence, we had a bad side in Dr. Hines' class, and that was paying attention to details, especially the small details, especially during that trebuchet project. Our job was to make cuts, and some cuts weren't that accurate, and that ended up with as the trebuchet was not proportional. It could have been more aesthetically pleasing, but we'll never know because I never paid attention to small little details. And paying attention to small little details is, along with never being satisfied, sets you apart with the people that want to get the same job as you. And I learned that the hard way. During my internship at Kapiolani Medical Center, I didn't pay attention to small little details, so I filled out the form for a patient wrong, and I got docked on that. I got warned because I didn't pay attention to small little details. These small little details make the people in the filing department's lives easier to sort. And if I want to be selfish and just do it my way, then that's not gonna work. So paying attention to small little details is very important, Micah. And we need to get better at that. I still need to get better at that. That your 2050 self still needs to get better at that. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen if we work at it. Now, the time messaging only allows 8 minutes, which is such a dumb rule, so I have to talk about this quick. That Karn's class, that applied digital media class, was so very important because it taught us a lot of good things about us that we do, and it also taught us about things that we could work on. And during that magazine assignment, we learned how to be leaders. Me and you weren't born leaders, but we were kind of carved into one. I was given a group. We weren't given with the best members. We didn't have the best members. But still, we took charge and we separated the roles evenly, and and we also held our own workload during that magazine by writing our own articles, doing our own ads, doing majority of the covers. And I felt like we did a good job of not being a tyrant but being a leader by leading by example. And that's so very important because in the workplace I have to lead with nurses, and that class also taught us that patience was never our strong suit, especially during that cyanotype painting thing. uh, our task was to basically make a cyanotype painting at the best of our abilities, figuring out the best way for it to print out. Um, my group and I rushed the process. We rushed the process, and when we rushed the process, the cyanotype didn't come out as well. It was a little bit blurry, and objects weren't clear. But we settled again, and that really hit us in the workplace because we just aren't patient people. And I feel like being a pediatrician and being patient with kids and how they want to express themselves is so very important because kids see doctors as bad guys, but the moment that kids can see doctors as good guys and they can be comfortable with us, that's so very key. And I'm getting around to it, but I'm warning you, please teach your kids to be patient. Remember that? Number 21. It's been years since I've played basketball. You thought that you had knee problems then, but now it's just a whole other deal. But basketball taught us to really be committed to things, to stay committed. Looking back, we barely missed practices. We always went to team bondings. We always showed up to practice early, and that's stuff that really does matter. You know, looking back at our generation, kids were so lazy and stuff like that. No more discipline. But looking back, dad and mom really did raise us right. And at the time, when we get scoldings, we think it sucked, but it didn't. In the long run, we're all okay. We're living life. We're doing fine. Discipline is a very touchy subject, but that's something that you need to incorporate within our kids. And I felt like the first time that I got to raise our kids, I was kind of a little bit too lenient on them. Even being a doctor, you can't go to work late. So being committed is really important. And Micah, before I let you go, I just want to say good luck on life, man, because I know how hard it is. I know how hard it was. But I really do believe that investing our time into the next generation is the best thing that we can do. Teaching our children the morals that we learn now, and the new stuff that we learn now, and how to be good Christians and to follow God and stuff like that is so very important. And I just truly want a better life for our kids. So thank you for listening, and good luck.